The 6th of June, 1944. Under the code name Operation Overlord, US, British, and Canadian troops crossed the English Channel and began landing on the Normandy coast in France. This operation will become known as D-Day and is the largest amphibious invasion in history, deploying more than 160,000 Allied troops on air, land, and sea. 50,000 vehicles, some 5,000 naval craft, and more than 11,500 aircraft support the initial invasion. Following the Normandy landings, the French resistance movement intensifies efforts to disrupt German communications and supply lines. German military commanders, particularly those who have seen service on the Eastern Front and experienced the extraordinary brutality of anti-partisan measures there, radicalize and intensify responses to real and perceived resistance activity. One such commander is responsible for slaughtering 642 innocent men, women, and children in the village of Oradour-sur-Glane, which will become one of the biggest World War II massacres on French soil. His name is Adolf Diekmann. Adolf Rudolf Reinhold Diekmann was born on the 8th of December 1914 in Magdeburg, then part of the German Empire. Although his father was a primary school teacher, Diekmann left school in 1932 at the age of 17. On the 30th of January 1933, Adolf Hitler was appointed Chancellor of Germany by President Paul von Hindenburg. In April 1933, Diekmann joined the Nazi Party, and in May of the same year, he became a member of the SS. He then completed his high school education at a Nazi secondary boarding school in Nuremberg, earning his degree in December 1935. In October 1937, Diekmann was sent to the SS training camp at Bad Tölz, which was one of the SS-Junker School's leadership training facilities for officer candidates of the SS. Heinrich Himmler, the head of the SS, intended for these schools to mold cadets for future service in the officer ranks of the SS. In these training facilities, cadets were taught to be adaptable officers who could perform any task assigned to them, whether in a police role, at a Nazi concentration camp, as part of a fighting unit, or within the greater SS organization. Political and ideological indoctrination was part of the syllabus for all SS cadets, but there was no merger of academic learning and military instruction like that found at West Point in the United States. Instead, personality training was stressed, which meant future SS leaders were shaped above all things by a National Socialist worldview and attitude. Instruction was designed to communicate a sense of racial superiority, a connection to other dependable like-minded men, ruthlessness, and a toughness that accorded the value system of the SS. When in August 1938, Diekmann completed a course and was promoted to second lieutenant, he then became a part of the so-called SS-VT unit, which was a mechanized infantry unit at the disposal of the Führer, Adolf Hitler. The SS-VT served as a small, elite unit within the SS, separate from the regular German army, and after the outbreak of the Second World War, it was expanded and reorganized into the Waffen-SS, which was the military branch of the SS. In 1938, Hitler threatened to unleash a European war unless the Sudetenland, a border area of Czechoslovakia containing an ethnic German majority, was surrendered to Germany. The leaders of Britain, France, Italy and Germany held a conference in Munich in Germany on the 29th and 30th of September 1938, in which they agreed to the German annexation of the Sudetenland in exchange for a pledge of peace from Hitler. Czechoslovakia, which was not a party to the Munich negotiations, agreed under significant pressure from Britain and France. Following the Munich Agreement, Diekmann's SS-VT unit, which was a part of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, marched into Czechoslovakia in October 1938 to annex the land for Germany. The Second World War began on the 1st of September 1939, when Nazi Germany invaded Poland. On the 12th of February 1940, Diekmann married a medical student, Hedwig Meindl. The marriage produced two sons, Rainer and Uwe Rudolf. On the 10th of May 1940, Hitler ordered the invasion of France, Belgium, Luxembourg and the Netherlands, and this campaign became known as the Battle of France. The Benelux countries, along with France, were conquered within 6 weeks. On the 27th of May 1940, during the fighting in northern France, Diekmann was shot in the lungs. Following his recovery, Diekmann was promoted to first lieutenant, and in May 1941, he was assigned as an instructor at the SS-Junker School, where he had been a student 4 years prior. Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union, began on Sunday the 22nd of June, 1941. After initial great successes by the German troops, the advance came to a standstill in October and November 1941 due to the onset of the Muddy Period. Hitler tried to conquer Leningrad, which failed, and the following siege lasted 872 days, from the 8th of September 1941 until the 27th of January 1944. The blockade became one of the longest and most destructive sieges in history, and it was possibly the costliest siege of all time due to the number of casualties which were suffered throughout its duration. As a result, the Wehrmacht, the German armed forces, lacked the strength to take Moscow, and a protracted war was imminent. Diekmann returned to the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, which was assigned to Army Group Center, a German army formation tasked with advancing through Central Soviet territory and capturing Moscow. During the late summer of 1941, Army Group Center pushed toward the Soviet capital during the Battle of Smolensk. By the time Das Reich took part in the Battle of Moscow, it had lost 60% of its combat strength. By February 1942, it had lost 10,690 men. In January 1944, the Das Reich division was sent to the southern French town of Montauban as a reserve unit in preparation for the anticipated Allied invasion of occupied Europe. While in southern France, they were ordered to begin operations against the Maquis, that were rural guerrillas, who according to German intelligence reports were active in the southern uplands of central France. While in southern France, in June 1944, Diekmann was promoted to SS-Sturmbannführer, which was equivalent to major. During the war, German occupation authorities in France reacted with increasing brutality to organized attacks on German soldiers, headquarters, and property by the resistance movement. The German military killed hostages and incarcerated in concentration camps real or perceived supporters or sympathizers of the resistance movement. In general, German anti-partisan measures in France never attained the level of violence or the numbers of civilian deaths as those implemented in Eastern and Southeastern Europe, especially in Serbia, Greece, and the Soviet Union. On the 9th of June 1944, 3 days after the Normandy landings, SS Major General Heinz Bernhard Lammerding issued orders for the division to break the spirit of the population by making examples and to cleanse the area around Clermont-Ferrand of partisans. That same day, members of the 2nd SS Panzer Division Das Reich, which was commanded by Major Helmut Kämpfe, had displayed what cleansing of partisans would mean. In retaliation for killing 15 Germans, soldiers of Das Reich hanged 99 male inhabitants of the village Toul. The same day, Helmut Kämpfe was captured by a group led by Sergeant Jean Quenu from Colonel Georges Gangouin's brigade, which was a militant communist group in the Maquis de la Maison, which was one of the largest Maquis groups of French resistance fighters fighting for the liberation of France. Quenu handed Kämpfe over to Colonel Georges Gangouin, who in response to the Toul massacre, ordered Kämpfe's execution on the following day. Though the exact circumstances remain unclear, according to a French informant, the 34-year-old Kämpfe and captured Wehrmacht soldiers were burned alive in a captured German military ambulance in front of an audience. When the SS division discovered that Kämpfe, a married man with 3 children, had been kidnapped, Adolf Diekmann, Kämpfe's personal friend, led his troops on a brutal search of the surrounding area. 2 local men were shot dead by SS men under Diekmann's command, and when Diekmann eventually reached the outskirts of the village, Oradour-sur-Glane, he found Kämpfe's handcuffed, burned body inside a German field ambulance with the remains of other German soldiers. After seeing his friend's fate, the enraged Diekmann ordered his men to raze the village and kill the inhabitants. The SS soldiers rounded up the entire population and concentrated them on the market square. Thereafter, they separated the villages by gender. Members of the 1st and 2nd platoons took the 197 men to several barns on the edge of town and locked them in. The 3rd platoon locked up 240 women and 205 children in the village church. Then the SS men set fire to the barns and threw grenades through the windows of the church, shooting those who sought to escape the flames. After 642 inhabitants, including 7 Jewish refugees, were dead, the company looted the empty dwellings and then burned the village to the ground. At about 8 p.m. on the evening of the 10th of June, the SS men withdrew from the smoking ruins. Only 7 villagers survived the massacre, 6 men and a woman, all of them more or less severely injured. About 15 other inhabitants of the village were able to escape the Germans before the massacre started, or evade the roundup by hiding. The Oradour-sur-Glane massacre received significant contemporaneous attention, requiring the German army command to search for an explanation, and the officers of the Das Reich to find one. The German explanation stated that the men of the village died during the fight. The fight had been initiated from the village. The women and children had taken refuge inside the church and had died as a result of an explosion from a nearby insurgent ammunition supply dump that ignited the inside of the church. After hearing the testimony of Diekmann, the commander of the 4th SS Panzer Grenadier Regiment, SS Colonel Sylvester Stadler, ordered that he should face a court-martial for ordering the massacre at Oradour-sur-Glane. Heinz Lammerding, Das Reich's division commander, agreed with the decision. However, all charges against Diekmann were dropped after he was killed near Noyer-Bocage while fighting in Normandy on the 29th of June, 1944. The 29-year-old Diekmann was not wearing a helmet at the time of his death and was killed by shrapnel to his head from an artillery shell. SS Sturmbannführer Diekmann, the most senior officer at the massacre of Oradour-sur-Glane, was buried at the Lacan German War Cemetery in Normandy, France. After Diekmann's death, his wife Hedwig remarried. According to her son Rainer, her first husband's name was taboo to mention. There were no tears shed for Adolf Diekmann. Thanks for watching the World History Channel. Be sure to like and subscribe, and click the bell notification icon so you don't miss our next episodes. We thank you, and we'll see you next time on the channel.